feeling, right? That moment when you have something specific you want to say, and there's that perfect English phrase.
Yeah.
Exists, but it's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuck somewhere between your brain and your tongue. Like, remember hearing about that parent trying to figure out how to handle their son's first lie?
Oh, yeah.
They knew they had to stop it early before it became a bigger problem, but that exact phrase they needed, nip it in the bud, just wasn't there in the moment.
It's incredibly common, especially, when you're navigating a new language. Those idiomatic expressions and phrasal verbs can feel slippery just when you need them most.
Right.
You are absolutely 100% not alone in that experience.
And that's exactly why we're doing this. You've brought us this amazing source material, a video transcript absolutely packed with real-life English phrases, used exactly how people actually speak.
Yeah, it's a goldmine.
So our mission is to take this stack of info and dive deep, pulling out the most important nuggets, the surprising insights, the bits that will truly make this vocabulary stick for you.
Consider us your guides. We're going to journey through this material together, looking at everything from, the language of daily routines, how we talk about the changing seasons.
Vocabulary for age.
Exactly. Essential phrases for politeness, and even practical English for something like visiting the dentist. It's all about seeing these words and phrases in their natural habitat,
All right, let's unpack this first big section. We're starting our day where most days begin, right? With the morning routine.
Makes sense.
The source material walks us through a typical morning and all the little actions that come with it and, the specific words we use for those actions.
Exactly. It all kicks off with that sound many of us dread, the alarm. How do we describe that? We say, my alarm goes off.
Goes off, right.
The phrasal verb to go off is what we use for an alarm sounding.
And when it goes off, sometimes the strongest impulse is just to delay the inevitable. You hit snooze.
Oh, yeah. Guilty.
What does hit snooze tell us? It implies physically pressing that button, begging for just like a few more minutes of sleep. Or non-sleep, really.
Which often means when you finally do get out of bed, it's not exactly a graceful leap. You roll out of bed.
Yes.
The source uses that. And it paints a picture, doesn't it? It's not literal rolling, but suggests getting up tiredly, maybe a little reluctant.
And if you really struggle, you might have overslept.
Mm-hmm.
That means you slept past the time you intended to wake up. Hear that little T sound at the end there. Overslept.
Or maybe, if you're lucky, every now and then, which means occasionally you get to sleep in.
The dream.
To sleep in is the opposite of oversleeping. It's sleeping later than your usual time on purpose. A small luxury.
If you're one of those people whose alarm goes off and you just get up, you could say more often than not, I wake up right away.
Right.
More often than not tells us this happens most of the time.
And what do we call someone who naturally prefers getting up early? They're a morning person.
Or an early riser.
Or just an early riser, yeah. It brings to mind that classic idiom the source mentions. The early bird catches the worm.
Right, that idea that starting early gives you an edge.
It's that idea that getting started ahead of others gives you an advantage.
So you're out of bed, maybe a bit slowly. Now you need to get ready. Simple actions here, but with specific verbs, like taking off your glasses or putting in your contact lenses. Take off and put in.
Standard stuff.
Then you might quickly move towards the shower. We often say hop in the shower.
Again, no actual hopping required. It just means entering quickly or, directly.
Getting ready also involves basic grooming. Put hair up, if you have long hair.
Sure.
And brush teeth. The source rightly points out the tricky the sound in teeth.
Yeah, that one takes practice for some learners. Teeth?
And choosing clothes. You pick out clothes, and then you get dressed. Notice the end of dress. It sounds like a T, not an ed. Dressed.
Yeah, that's a common pronunciation thing. Get dressed.
A simple act that makes a space feel tidy is to make the bed.
Pulling up the sheets, arranging pillows, making it look neat. Seems small, but it makes a difference.
Now, if you're managing a family morning, things get a bit more complex. You might wake up the kids.
Uh-oh.
And then help them get ready. The source distinguishes help them get ready as doing tasks for them, like making their breakfast or packing their bags.
Right, not just shouting encouragement from the other room.
Exactly. And while you wish you could greet them with a cheerful rise and shine.
Rise and shine.
Let's face it, some mornings someone is just in a bad mood from the start. We say they wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Classic idiom. Just means starting the day grumpy.
Breakfast, often needs to happen fast. You might whip up something quickly.
Whip up. Yeah, means prepare food in a hurry.
Or maybe just throw together breakfast similar,
Yeah,
implying haste and perhaps, not much effort.
throw together some cereal and milk, maybe?
Pretty much. And when time is really short, you might scarf down breakfast.
Scarf down. That phrasal verb means to eat something extremely quickly, like you're inhaling it.
As departure time nears, the urgency phrases kick in. Gotta get going.
Yeah.
Or don't want to be late.
Yeah.
The source helpfully mentions the common U.S. pronunciations, gotta for got to and want it for want to.
Gotta go, wanna leave. Very common, yeah.
People then grab their things and head out the door.
Head out is a very common way to say to leave. I'm gonna head out now.
And as they depart, you might see them off.
That means saying goodbye as someone is leaving, maybe on a trip or just for the day, waving from the doorway.
Once the house is quiet. Peace. The next phase might begin. Maybe you start by trying to tidy up the kitchen.
Putting away the breakfast chaos, tidying up.
Then perhaps you plan out your day. The source notes that adding out to plan here just adds a bit more emphasis, like planning thoroughly.
Right, compared to just plan your day, plan out, sounds a bit more deliberate.
And often the goal of that solo time is to get more work done.
Focusing on being productive without the morning rush, hopefully.
A very common first work task. Check my email first thing.
And the source has a great grammar tip here. When you mean the very first thing you do, you just say first thing. No prepositions needed. Not in the first thing or at the first thing.
Just check email first thing. Got it.
If you're responsible for others, maybe you check in on your team or students.
Check in on. Okay.
This three-part phrasal verb means to briefly connect to see how they're doing or if they need anything. Monitor progress.
And of course, you need to get started on your to-do list.
That list of tasks for the day, your plan.
But it's not all work. It's crucial to remember to take a break.
So important. To rest for a bit before diving back in.
Wow, that's a surprising number of specific phrases just for the morning. It really highlights how much vocabulary is tied to just everyday actions.
It does. And speaking of the everyday world around us, the source material does a great job of linking vocabulary to visual context, especially the changing seasons.
Well, that's smart, connecting language to what you see and feel.
It's a smart way to connect the language to sensory experience. Let's look at spring. A cheerful way to announce its arrival is spring has sprung.
Sprung, like it jumped out.
Exactly. The source points out that spring isn't just the season, it's also a verb meaning to jump. So the phrase playfully suggests the season has jumped into being.
And when the weather is perfect, you can simply say there's not a cloud in the sky.
Beautifully descriptive and very common.
But spring also means unpredictable weather. The source gives us a great idiom here. Take a rain check.
Ah, this one's interesting. What's fascinating about this one is that it very rarely has anything to do with actual rain anymore.
Right, like the example from the source. You're sick and have to cancel dinner. You ask your friend if you can take a rain check.
It just means you want to reschedule for another time. Can we take a rain check?
In this idiom section brings us right back to that phrase from the intro. Nip something in the bud.
Ah, yes. The source uses the beautiful analogy of a flower bud. If you nip it, pinch it off before it opens, it doesn't grow.
Yeah.
Applying that to a problem, like that first lie from the sun, means stopping it early at the very beginning before it develops and gets worse.
You intervene early to nip it in the bud. Makes perfect sense with a visual.
Shifting to relationships, the source introduces fair weather friend.
Sounds negative.
It is. This is a negative term. Just like fair weather is pleasant, a fair weather friend is only around and supportive when things are easy and good for them.
So what's the opposite of that? A real friend.
A friend who sticks with you through thick and thin.
Thick and thin.
Thick and thin means good times. Thick, maybe meaning substantial, easy. And bad times. Thin, difficult. This friend is loyal no matter what.
That's the kind you want. Okay, moving into summer.
The language heats up. The source gives us several ways to describe intense heat. It's boiling.
Like water.
It's blistering or blistering hot.
Ouch.
It's a scorcher or simply it's a hot one.
Lots of options for complaining about heat.
We do love to talk about the weather, and if that intense heat lasts for several days, it's called a heat wave.
Right, an extended period of unusual heat.
Summer often means vacation. The common phrases are go on vacation or be off on vacation.
If you're off on vacation, it means you're away from work or your usual routine. Lucky you.
And a classic summer destination, you might head to the beach.
which is just another way of saying go to the beach. We head out the door, we head to the beach.
In that heat, all you really want to do is chill out.
Definitely.
To chill out means to relax, to take it easy. The source gives the perfect image, chilling out by the pool.
Sounds good right now. Okay, now let's embrace the crispness of fall.
The source uses brisk to describe cool, chilly weather.
Brisk, yeah, like a brisk walk, invigorating.
When it's brisk outside, it makes you want to get cozy indoors.
Put on a sweater, grab a blanket, get cozy.
We also hear crisp used for weather. While crisp often means crunchy, like an apple.
Right.
For weather, it means cool, fresh, and perhaps dry air. The source mentions enjoying crisp mornings.
And when the wind really picks up, it's blustery.
Blustery. You can almost hear the wind in that word. You can feel it pushing. And that wind makes the sound of the rustling of leaves as they blow around.
Fall traditions are part of the language too, like carving pumpkins for Halloween.
A classic. And here's a fun phrasal verb with a literal origin. Squirrel away something.
Like squirrels burying nuts.
Exactly. Think of squirrels burying nuts for winter. To squirrel away something means to hide it or save it for future use. The source gives the example of finding $20 in an old coat pocket money you must have squirreled away.
I should squirrel away more money.
Yeah.
And another great idiom tied to nature. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Ah, yes. This means a child is similar to their parent in characteristics or behavior.
The anecdote about raking leaves and the kids sliding into the pile, just like the parent used to, that perfectly illustrates this.
It really does. Like father, like son, or mother, like daughter.
Unfortunately, fall can also mean catching a cold. The phrase, under the weather.
Right. Under the weather means you're not feeling great, a bit sick, but usually not seriously ill, just a bit off.
Finally, winter. The coldest, harshest part of winter is called the dead of winter.
Sounds pretty bleak. Definitely not the time for beach trips, as the source notes.
Sometimes relationships can feel frosty, too, to give someone the cold shoulder.
Ooh, that means intentionally ignoring them or being unfriendly, often after a disagreement. The source uses the example of sisters fighting, one giving the other the cold shoulder.
Being stuck indoors, especially during long winters, can lead to cabin fever.
That feeling of restlessness, anxiety, or irritation from being confined inside for too long could be cold, sickness, maybe even a pandemic keeping you inside.
And here's a verb that describes something starting small and growing rapidly. To snowball.
Like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger.
The source gives examples of how buying a couple of snacks at the grocery store can snowball into a full cart,
Happens to me all the time.
or how small lies tend to snowball into bigger ones. It's usually used negatively.
Yeah, it implies things getting out of control, and a classic idiom for something much larger than it appears. The tip of the iceberg.
Just the small part you can see.
Exactly. The source uses the example of an English teacher who says the job looks simple, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Their actual work includes being a video maker, entrepreneur, all sorts of things.
The visible part is small compared to the whole hidden structure below the water.
That's a brilliant way the source uses the seasons to link vocabulary to concrete experiences and even abstract ideas. It's not just weather words.
Right, it's about relationships, habits, problems, all connected.
It really shows how deeply language is woven into our experience of the world. Speaking of experiences, let's talk about something universal: age.
Yes, something we all navigate. The source kicks off this section with a relatable little story. Being asked for identification by a very young cashier when trying to buy something restricted by age.
We've all been there, maybe, or seen it happen.
And this story leads into a really useful grammar point from the source about describing age.
Yeah, this is a good one. When you use the age as an adjective right before a noun, like a 16-year-old cashier or 4-year-old son, you use hyphens, and year is singular year-old.
Got it. Hyphenated singular year, 16-year-old.
But if you're just stating someone's age without a noun right after, like he is 50 years old or I am 36 years old.
Then no hyphens, and year is plural. Years old. Okay, that's a great little detail to remember. He's 50 years old.
Back to the story, being asked for ID to prove your age is called get carded.
Get carded.
The source highlights that in the U.S., because of laws around alcohol, legal age 21, you might get carded even if you look much older, sometimes up to 50.
Wow, 50.
And apparently some older people find it quite flattering. It makes them feel young.
I can see that. A common feeling as those years accumulate is to feel old. The source captures this perfectly.
Mm.
It's that moment you realize there's a gap between your actual age and how you feel inside, like seeing professional athletes younger than you,
Oh, yeah. That hits hard.
or cousins you remember as kids graduating high school. Moments that make you suddenly feel old.
But the source offers a comforting perspective, too. Age is just a number.
It's often more about your mindset than the number of years you've lived. You can be vibrant and engaged regardless of age.
And the verb form is simply to age, meaning to get older. As the source says, everyone ages, it's just a part of life. Can't avoid it.
To push back against that feeling of feeling old, you can strive to be young at heart.
This means keeping your curiosity, energy, and sense of playfulness. The source mentions being around young children can help keep you young at heart by encouraging silliness and simple joys.
For anyone thinking about pursuing a new passion or learning a new skill later in life, the encouraging phrase is, "It's never too late."
I love this one. The source uses the beautiful examples of learning English in retirement or planting a tree that won't be mature for decades. You do it because it's never too late to start something meaningful.
That's really inspiring.
The source also directly addresses a less optimistic idiom. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
That sounds a bit defeatist.
It does. This idiom suggests that older people find it hard to learn new things or change their ways. But the source really pushes back on this, arguing that you can absolutely keep learning, perhaps just in different ways, and that keeping your mind active is crucial.
Which leads directly to the idea of keeping your mind young.
Exactly. This means engaging in activities that challenge your brain puzzles, art, learning new languages, anything that keeps you mentally stimulated.
And the source leaves us with a fantastic quote from George Bernard Shaw.
Oh, this is great.
We don't stop playing because we grow older. We grow older because we stop playing.
Wow, that's profound. A really powerful thought about the connection between mindset, activity, and aging.
That's a powerful section. It shows how language around age isn't just numbers, but includes feelings, capabilities, and, cultural attitudes.
Totally.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From personal experience to how we navigate social interactions, particularly in more formal settings like work.
Politeness. This section is incredibly practical. The source gives us clear examples of common but potentially impolite phrases and provides much better, more formal substitutes.
It's really about sounding appropriate for the context, isn't it?
Precisely.
So, what shouldn't you say to greet someone in the workplace? Avoid the very informal, "What's up?"
Right. Even if you're friendly, it can be too casual for some workplaces. Much more polite and standard is, "How are you doing?" or simply, "How are you?"
Okay, more formal acknowledgement. If someone approaches you, definitely don't hit them with, "What do you want?" or "What do you need?"
Oh, no, that can sound very abrupt, even rude.
Yeah, a bit demanding.
Exactly. A polite alternative that assumes they need assistance and you're ready to help is, "How can I help you?"
Much better. To ask people to be quiet, you absolutely must avoid hush, shush, or, dare I say it, shut up.
No, those are just plain rude in almost any context, especially work.
So what's the polite way?
Instead, use polite requests like, "Please be quiet," or perhaps more gently in a shared space, "Can you lower your voice?"
Okay, this next one is sensitive but important. In a formal setting like work, you probably shouldn't announce, "I have to pee."
No, definitely not. Too direct, too biological for the workplace. The source provides the common euphemisms. "I have to use the restroom," or "I have to use the bathroom."
Restroom or bathroom. Got it. The source notes restroom is often seen as slightly more formal or indirect in the U.S.
That sounds right, yeah.
If you make a significant mistake at work, like sending a crucial email to the wrong person, uh-oh, sorry about that, isn't really enough, is it?
No, that's way too casual for a big error. Sorry about that. Is for bumping into someone, maybe?
So what do you say?
You need a more substantial apology. The source suggests, "I apologize for that," and often it's good to follow up with what you should have done. "I should have double-checked the address." Taking responsibility.
Right, shows you understand the gravity.
Yeah.
Okay, when you've explained something and you want to check understanding, don't ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the source points out people might just say yes to be polite, even if they're totally confused. It puts the burden on them.
Right.
Instead, ask a question that requires a real answer, prompting them to process the information. "What are your thoughts?" Or, "I'd like your opinion on this," work much better to gauge actual comprehension and invite input.
Open-ended questions.
Yeah.
If you didn't hear or understand what someone said, never ever use the abrupt, "huh," or what.
No, that sounds very rude, like you weren't paying attention or you're annoyed.
The polite way.
The polite way to ask for repetition or clarification is, can you repeat that? Or maybe, sorry, I didn't catch that. Or what do you mean by that? If you need more explanation.
Okay. To get someone's attention across a room, you wouldn't shout, "Hey!" Eh?
Nope. Too abrupt, maybe a bit startling. The polite way is, excuse me.
Simple and effective.
Yeah.
When reacting positively to good news in a professional context, skip the casual, sweet.
Yeah, sweet is very informal. Much better to use phrases like, that's great, that sounds good, or fantastic.
Sounds more professional. And finally, how you refer to people. Avoid using informal or potentially disrespectful terms like dude, man, or chick when addressing colleagues or clients.
Absolutely essential. Use the person's name. First name, usually, unless it's a very formal environment.
Like maybe Mr. or Miss Smith.
If it's a very formal environment, use their title and last name, like President Smith or Dr. Jones. But know your workplace culture. Sometimes just John or Sarah is fine. Always err on the side of respect if you're unsure.
That list is so helpful because it highlights a key pattern, doesn't it? Polite language often means using slightly longer, more complete sentences.
Right.
And avoiding those short, abrupt, maybe less thoughtful phrases.
Exactly. It might feel like more effort, but it makes a significant difference in how you're perceived, especially in professional settings or when meeting people for the first time. Shows consideration.
All right, let's wrap up our deep dive today with some really practical English for a situation many people find a little intimidating. Visiting the dentist.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's not everyone's favorite place, but knowing the vocabulary can definitely reduce the stress if you need to discuss dental health in English.
Absolutely. First, you need to schedule your visit. You make an appointment.
Yep, call the office, make an appointment.
For a routine checkup. It's also called a routine appointment, usually something you do once or twice a year.
At that checkup, the primary thing is usually to get your teeth cleaned.
By the hygienist, right, with special tools.
Exactly. You'll also hear about different parts of your mouth. There are your teeth, of course, and the red skin attached to your teeth is your gums.
And the source notes gums is always plural. You have gums.
Always plural, yeah. They'll also look at your enamel, that hard, protective outer layer of your teeth.
The person who does the cleaning and initial checks is the dental hygienist, often just called the hygienist.
Right. The dentist is usually the one who examines the x-rays, diagnoses problems, and deals with more complex procedures.
The overall concept of keeping your mouth healthy and clean is called oral hygiene.
Oral means related to the mouth, so mouth hygiene.
During the examination, you'll be instructed to sit back in the chair, that special reclining dental chair,
Uh-huh. Lean back.
and definitely told to open wide.
Open wide. The source humorously points out how difficult it is to answer questions when your mouth is wide open and full of tools.
So true. Part of the routine checkup often includes getting x-rays to see what's happening below the surface, inside the teeth or jaw.
The hygienist will reinforce good habits, brush your teeth, usually recommending twice a day using toothpaste.
Standard stuff.
They might apply fluoride, a treatment, often a gel or varnish, to strengthen your enamel.
And you'll get your teeth flossed, which means cleaning between them with dental floss.
Very important, they always say. At the end, you'll be asked to gargle, rinsing your mouth out, usually spitting into a little sink, or they use that small vacuum tool.
The suction thing, yeah. So that's the routine checkup. What about when there are problems? A common one is a toothache.
Just pain in a tooth, often caused by decay or infection.
You might also experience sensitivity, like a sharp pain response.
Usually to hot or cold, yeah. Perhaps to cold water. This can happen if a hole in your enamel, a cavity, reaches closer to the nerve.
Speaking of which, the most common problem is probably a cavity or multiple cavities.
Right. The source points out that in the U.S., cavity often sounds like cavity. Cavity.
Cavity. Okay.
Yeah.
And a cavity is basically a hole caused by bacteria eating away at the tooth.
From sugar and acid, yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, the source mentions they are unfortunately quite expensive to fix in the U.S.
To fix a cavity, after cleaning out the decay, the dentist puts in a filling.
Material that fills the hole, restoring the tooth shape.
If a tooth is severely damaged or cracked, it might need a crown.
Not like royalty. It's a cap placed over the entire tooth to protect it and restore its function.
A procedure that sounds rather intense is a root canal.
Oof, yeah. People dread hearing those words. This involves removing the entire tooth's pulp, the inner part including nerves and blood vessels, down into the root, which is below the gums, usually because it's infected or very badly damaged.
A more general term for removing a tooth is an extraction, or having a tooth pulled.
Right. This can be for issues like severe decay, maybe requiring a root canal alternative, or, as the source mentions, other reasons like a child's baby teeth not falling out to make space for adult teeth.
And then there are wisdom teeth, those back molars.
Ah, wisdom teeth. The source highlights that in the U.S., they are very often removed, usually in the late teens or early 20s.
Why is that?
Because modern mouths frequently aren't large enough to accommodate them properly, so they can cause crowding, pain, or infection. It's a very common procedure for young adults in the States.
Interesting, a U.S.-specific practice almost.
Yeah.
For these more complex procedures, you'll get anesthesia so you don't feel pain.
Yeah, definitely. This might be local anesthesia, like a shot to numb just the area.
Like for a filling?
Exactly. The source mentions Novocaine as a common type people recognize in the U.S. for things like cavities, although other agents are used now too. Or it could be general anesthesia, where you are completely asleep, often used for wisdom teeth removal or more major surgery.
Other issues include plaque, that sticky film that builds up on your teeth.
Which the hygienist scrapes off. The source reminds us it's not like an award plaque. Different word.
Good distinction. Hardened plaque is called tartar.
Right, which also needs professional cleaning. And an infection of the gums is called gingivitis.
Gingivitis, okay.
Finally, there are procedures to improve aesthetics, like tooth whitening.
Which the source notes can be controversial or cause sensitivity for some.
And getting braces to straighten teeth. The source calls braces a rite of passage for many U.S. teens.
Even though they can be tricky to clean around.
Exactly. Lots of special little brushes involved.
That was a thorough run-through of dental English. It's definitely a specific area, but knowing these terms is so practical if you need to talk about it, especially in a new country, maybe.
Absolutely. The source provided such detailed context, covering everything from simple cleaning to complex procedures. Really useful stuff.
We've covered an incredible range of vocabulary today, haven't we? Starting with the minute details of your morning.
Yeah, from the alarm clock onwards.
Flowing through the natural world of the seasons, reflecting on age, navigating social norms, and even handling health topics like the dentist.
Seeing these phrases and idioms within real-life examples, as your source material allowed, is truly the most effective way to learn them, I think.
I agree. It's not just memorizing a definition from a list.
No, it's understanding the context, the feeling, the nuance behind the words, how people actually use them.
It really makes learning vocabulary a much richer experience, connecting words to moments and meaning.
It moves you towards genuine fluency, understanding, not just repeating.
So here's something to take away and think about. We've seen how phrases like get carded or talking about wisdom teeth can reveal cultural specifics, U.S. practices. Terms like under the weather or feel old touch on universal human experiences.
Right, things everyone relates to.
So the question is, how does exploring vocabulary like this not just expand your English words, but also offer you a new lens, maybe, through which to understand the everyday world and the people in it? You know that feeling, right? That moment when you have something really specific you want to say, and there's that perfect English phrase, exists, but it's just gone.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like stuck somewhere between your brain and your tongue. I heard about this parent, trying to handle their son's first lie.
Okay.
And they knew they had to stop it early, right?
Yeah.
Before it got bigger. But that phrase, nip it in the bud, it just wasn't there.
It's incredibly common, yeah. Especially when you're, navigating a new language. Those idioms, the phrasal verbs, they can feel slippery just when you need them.
Exactly.
You are absolutely 100% not alone in that.
And that's really why we're doing this. You've brought us this, amazing source material, a video transcript just packed with real-life English phrases.
Yet the way people actually talk.
So our mission today is to take this stack of info and really dive deep. Pull out the most important bits, the surprising things, the stuff that'll make this vocabulary stick for you.
Consider us your guides. We're going to journey through it together, looking at, everything from daily routines, seasonal talk, how we talk about age.
Polite language, too, right?
Oh, yeah, politeness, even dentist vocabulary. It's all about seeing these words in their natural habitat,
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this first big section. We're starting the day, where most days begin. Morning routine. The source material walks us through a typical morning, all those little actions, and the specific words we use.
Exactly. It all kicks off with that sound.
Yeah.
Maybe a sound many of us dread, the alarm.
Right.
How do we say that? We say, my alarm goes off. Goes off. That's the phrasal verb for an alarm sounding.
And when it does go off, sometimes the first instinct is just delay.
Oh, yeah.
You hit snooze. What does that mean? Hit snooze. It's like you're physically pressing the button,
Right.
begging for 5 more minutes.
Just a few more minutes, which often means when you finally get out of bed, it's not a, graceful leap.
No.
You roll out of bed. The source uses that phrase, and it paints such a picture, doesn't it?
It really does.
Not literally rolling, but just getting up tiredly, maybe a bit reluctant.
And if you really struggle, maybe you overslept. You slept past the time you meant to wake up. How does that sound? Overslept.
Overslept, yeah. Or maybe, if you're lucky, every now and then, which just means occasionally, you get to sleep in. Now, to sleep in is the opposite. It's sleeping later than usual on purpose, a little luxury.
Right. So if you're one of those people whose alarm goes off and you just get up, maybe more often than not, you wake up right away.
Yeah, more often than not tells us it happens most of the time.
Okay.
And what do we call someone who, actually enjoys getting up early?
A rare breed.
Huh. Well, they're a morning person or just an early riser.
Ah, okay.
It makes me think of that idiom the source mentions, the early bird catches the worm.
Right. Getting started early gives you an advantage. So, okay, you're out of bed, maybe slowly.
Yeah.
Now, getting ready. Simple actions, but specific verbs here, too.
Like glasses or contacts. You take off your glasses or you put in your contacts and take off, put in.
Then maybe you head for the shower quickly. We often say, hop in the shower.
Right. No actual hopping involved, usually.
Hopefully not.
It just means getting in quickly, directly.
And basic grooming. Put hair up, maybe. Brush teeth. The source points out that tricky, the sound in teeth.
Teeth, yeah. And choosing clothes. You pick out clothes, and then you get dressed. Notice dressed ends with that ta sound again. Dressed.
Dressed. Got it. And something simple that makes a space feel tidier.
Make the bed. Pull up the sheets, fix the pillows, make it look neat.
Now, if you're managing a family morning, things get a bit more complex.
Definitely. You might wake up the kids.
Yeah.
And then help them get ready. And the source points out help them get ready often means doing tasks for them, like making their breakfast or packing bags.
And even though you wish you could greet them all cheerfully with rise and shine.
If only.
Let's be real. Some mornings someone is just grumpy from the start.
Oh, yeah. We say they wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Classic idiom for starting the day in a bad mood.
It is. Okay, breakfast.
Yeah.
Often needs to happen fast. You might whip up something quickly.
Yeah, whip up means prepare food in a hurry. Or maybe just throw together breakfast. Similar idea, implying haste, maybe not a gourmet meal.
Throw together, I like that. And if time is really short, you might scarf down breakfast.
Scarf down, yeah. That means eating extremely quickly, like barely chewing.
Okay. Then departure time is getting close. The urgency phrases kick in.
Gotta get going. Or don't want to be late. And the source helpfully points out those common U.S. pronunciations. Gotta get going, wanna be on time.
Gotta, wanna.
Right.
People then grab their things and head out the door. Head out is super common for to leave, isn't it?
Very common. And as they leave, you might see them off. That means saying goodbye as someone's heading out, whether for the day or a longer trip.
Okay. Once the house is quiet, maybe the next phase starts. Tidying.
Could be. Maybe you tidy up the kitchen, put away the breakfast stuff.
Then maybe plan out your day. The source mentioned adding out. Just adds a bit more emphasis.
Yeah, like planning thoroughly. Plan out my day versus just plan my day. Subtle difference.
Right. And often the goal of that quiet time is to get more work done. Focus. Be productive.
And a really common first work task.
Email.
Check my email first thing. And that grammar tip from the source is great. No prepositions needed, just first thing.
Check email first thing. Got it. And if you manage people, maybe you check in on them.
Yeah, check in on it. That 3-part phrasal verb means to briefly connect, see how they're doing, monitor progress.
Of course, you need to get started on your to-do list, your task list.
Absolutely. But importantly,
Don't forget to take a break.
yes, crucial. Rest for a bit before diving back in.
Wow, that is a surprising number of specific phrases just for the morning.
It really is. Shows how much vocabulary is tied to just everyday actions.
It does. And speaking of the everyday world, the source does a really neat job linking vocabulary to visual things, like the seasons.
It's a really smart way to connect language to, sensory experience. Let's look at spring.
Okay.
A cheerful way to announce it is spring has sprung. The source mentions spring is also a verb, right? To jump.
So it's like the season has jumped into being.
Kind of playful, yeah. And when the weather's perfect,
Not a cloud in the sky. Simple, descriptive.
But spring can also be unpredictable. And that leads to a great idiom, take a rain check.
Ah, yes. But it almost never means actual rain anymore, does it?
Very rarely. Like the source example. You're sick, you cancel dinner plans, you ask your friend, can we take a rain check?
Meaning reschedule for later. Got it.
And this section brings us right back to that phrase from the intro.
Nip something in the bud.
Exactly. The source uses that lovely flower bed analogy. If you nip it, pinch it off early.
It doesn't grow.
Right, so applying that to a problem, like that first lie, means stopping it right at the beginning, before it develops, before it gets worse.
Intervene early. Nip it in the bud. Makes sense.
Shifting gears to relationships, the source gives us fair weather friend.
That sounds negative.
It is. Just like fair weather is nice and easy, a fair weather friend is only around when things are good for you.
What's the positive opposite then?
A friend who sticks with you through thick and thin.
Thick and thin, meaning good times and bad times.
Exactly. Thick is like the good, easy times. Thin is the difficult times. This friend is loyal no matter what.
Nice. Okay, moving into summer, the language heats up.
Literally. The source gives us several ways to talk about intense heat. It's boiling.
Boiling, or it's blistering.
Blistering hot, yeah. Or it's a scorcher.
A scorcher, or just simply, it's a hot one.
Right. Lots of options. And if that heat lasts for days...
That's a heat wave.
Summer often means vacation time.
Yes. How do we see that?
Common phrases are go on vacation, or maybe be off on vacation. If you're off on vacation, it means you're away from work, your usual routine.
And a classic summer spot, the beach. You might head to the beach.
Just another way to say go to the beach. And in that heat, what do you want to do?
Chill out. Definitely.
Yeah, chill out just means relax, take it easy. Like the source says, chilling out by the pool. Perfect image.
Okay, let's embrace fall now, or autumn. The source uses brisk for that cool, chilly weather.
Brisk, yeah. Makes you want to get cozy inside.
Totally. We also hear crisp for weather. What does that mean exactly?
Well, crisp often means crunchy, like a crisp apple.
Right.
But for weather, it means cool, fresh, maybe dry air. The source mentions enjoying crisp mornings.
Crisp mornings, okay. And when the wind really picks up.
It's blustery. You can feel it pushing you, and that wind causes the rustling of leaves, that sound.
Rustling, yeah. Fall traditions get vocabulary, too, like carving pumpkins.
And here's a fun phrasal verb, squirrel away something.
Like squirrels burying nuts.
Exactly. So to squirrel away means to hide something, usually small things, for later use. Like finding that $20 in your coat pocket you must have squirreled away.
I wish I did that more often. Another nature idiom.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Meaning a child is similar to their parent.
In character or behavior, yeah. The source had that cute story about raking leaves and the kids sliding in the pile.
Just like the parent used to do. That perfectly shows it.
It does. Unfortunately, fall can also mean getting sick.
Uh-oh. The phrase is under the weather.
Yeah, under the weather means you're not feeling great, maybe a bit sick, but usually not seriously ill. Just off.
Got it. Okay, finally, winter. The coldest, darkest part is?
The dead of winter. Definitely not beach time.
No. And relationships can get cold, too. Giving someone the cold shoulder.
That means intentionally ignoring someone or being unfriendly, usually after a fight, like the sister's example in the source.
Right. Being stuck inside during winter can lead to
cabin fever. That restless, irritable feeling from being cooped up too long. Could be cold, sickness, even the pandemic.
And fever, yeah. And here's a verb, to snowball.
Ah, like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger.
Right. But usually used negatively.
Often, yeah. Like buying a few snacks can snowball into a full shopping cart. Or small eyes snowball into bigger problems. Starts small, grows fast.
Okay. And that classic idiom for something much larger than it appears.
The tip of the iceberg. The source used the English teacher example, right? The teaching part you see is just the tip of the iceberg.
Compared to all the hidden work, video making, entrepreneurship.
Exactly. The visible part is tiny compared to the whole hidden reality.
Wow, that's such a brilliant way the source uses seasons. It connects vocabulary not just to weather, but relationships, habits, problems.
It really shows how language is just woven into our whole experience of the world. Speaking of experiences, let's talk about something universal. Age.
Yes. Something we all deal with. The source starts this bit with that relatable story. Getting ID'd by a really young cashier.
Been there. And it leads to a super useful grammar unit about describing age.
Right. The hyphen thing.
Yeah. When age is an adjective before a noun, like a 16-year-old cashier or a 4-year-old son, you use hyphens, and year is singular, year-old.
16-year-old, 4-year-old, got it. But if you're just stating the age.
Then no hyphens, and year is plural. He is 50 years old. I am 36 years old. Years old.
Years old. Okay, that's a great distinction. So back to the story, being asked for ID is called get carded.
Mm-hmm.
And the source points out, in the U.S., with the drinking age of 21, you might get carded even if you look, well, much older, maybe up to 50.
And older people might find it flattering.
Sometimes, yeah. A little ego boost.
Okay, a common feeling as the years go by is to feel old.
Oh, yeah. The source captures that perfectly. It's that moment you realize there's a gap between your actual age and how you feel inside, you know?
Like seeing pro athletes younger than you. Exactly. Or seeing cousins you remember as little kids graduating high school. Moments that suddenly make you feel old.
But the source offers comfort, too. Age is just a number.
Right. It's often more about your mindset, your attitude, than the actual number.
And the verb is simply to age, to get older. As the source says, everyone ages.
It's part of life. And to kind of push back against feeling old, you can try to be young at heart.
Meaning keeping your curiosity, your energy.
Your sense of playfulness, yeah. The source mentions being around kids helps keep you young at heart, encourages silliness.
That makes sense. And for anyone thinking about learning something new later in life.
The phrase is, it's never too late.
Like learning English in retirement, or planting a tree that won't mature for decades.
Beautiful examples. You do it because it's never too late to start something meaningful.
Now, the source also tackles a more negative idiom.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right. The idea that older people struggle to learn new things, but the source really pushes back on that.
Saying you absolutely can keep learning.
Yes. Maybe just in different ways. And that keeping your mind active is key.
Which leads right to keeping your mind young.
Engaging in things that challenge your brain puzzles, art, learning languages, anything that keeps you mentally stimulated.
And the source ends this section with that great George Bernard Shaw quote.
We don't stop playing because we grow older. We grow older because we stop playing.
Wow. That's powerful. Connects mindset directly to aging.
It really does.
That whole section shows how language around age is so much more than numbers. It's feelings, attitudes, capabilities. Okay, let's shift gears from personal experience to social interactions, especially in more formal settings like work.
Yeah, this part is incredibly practical. The source gives really clear examples of what not to say, and the better, more polite alternatives. It's all about context.
So greeting someone at work, what should you avoid?
Definitely avoid this super informal, what's up?
Right. Too casual instead.
Much more standard and polite is how are you doing, or just how are you?
More formal acknowledgement. Okay. If someone approaches you, definitely don't say, what do you want? Or what do you need?
No, that sounds really abrupt, even rude.
So it's better.
A polite alternative assumes they need help and you're offering it. How can I help you?
Much better. Asking people to be quiet. Avoid hush, shush, or...
Oh, definitely avoid shut up. Just plain rude.
Right, instead.
Polite requests, please be quiet. Or maybe a bit softer in a shared space. Can you lower your voice?
Okay, this next one is sensitive but important. Formal setting, like work.
Oh.
You can't say, I have to pee.
No, definitely not the place for that. The source gives the common euphemisms, I have to use the restroom or I have to use the bathroom.
And restroom is maybe slightly more formal in the U.S.
Often seen that way, yeah. A bit more indirect.
Okay. Big mistake at work. Sending that crucial email to the wrong person. Sorry about that. Isn't going to cut it, is it?
No, that's way too casual for a significant error. That's for, like, bumping into someone.
So what do you say?
You need a more serious apology. The source suggests, I apologize for that. And it's often good to add what you should have done. I should have double-checked the address. Shows accountability.
Good point. When you've explained something, don't ask, does that make sense? Why not?
The source points out people might just nod yes, even if they're totally confused, to avoid looking silly.
Right. So, what's a better way to check understanding?
Ask something that needs a real answer, forces them to process it, what are your thoughts? Or, I'd like your opinion on this, gets a deeper response.
Okay. If you didn't hear someone, definitely no. Huh, or what?
No. Sounds very abrupt and rude. The polite way is, can you repeat that? Or maybe, what do you mean by that? If you need clarification.
Getting someone's attention across a room. Shouting, hey, is out.
Oh yeah. The polite way is, excuse me,
Good news in a professional context. Skip the casual suite.
Yes, much better to use things like, that's great, that sounds good, or maybe fantastic.
Okay. And finally, addressing people. Avoid informal stuff like, dude, man, chick.
Absolutely essential at work. Use the person's name if it's very formal, title and last name, President Smith. But, gauge your workplace. Sometimes just John is fine.
Err on the side of respect if unsure.
Always a good rule.
That list is so helpful. It highlights a pattern, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Polite language often means slightly longer, more complete sentences.
Exactly. Less abruptness, it might feel like more effort, but it really affects how you're perceived, especially professionally or when meeting new people.
Makes a big difference. All right, let's wrap up our deep dive today with some really practical English for, well, a situation many people find a bit intimidating.
Ah, the dentist.
The dentist. Not always a favorite place, but knowing the words can definitely help, right?
Absolutely. Reduces stress if you need to talk about your teeth in English.
Okay, first step,
Mm-hmm.
scheduling. You make an appointment.
Mm-hmm. For a routine checkup or just a routine appointment. That's the regular visit, maybe once or twice a year.
And at that checkup, the main thing is usually to get your teeth cleaned.
Right, by the dental hygienist using special tools.
You'll also hear about parts of the mouth, teeth, obviously, and the red skin around them.
Those are your gums, always plural, gums. And they'll look at your enamel, that hard outer coating on your teeth.
Okay, gums, enamel, and the people involved.
The person doing the cleaning and initial checks is the dental hygienist, often shortened to just hygienist.
Hygienist, okay.
The dentist usually interprets the x-rays, does more complex work.
And the whole idea of keeping your mouth clean is...
Oral hygiene. Oral just means related to the mouth.
During the exam, you'll be told to sit back in the chair, that fancy dental chair.
Yep. And definitely told to open wide. The source joked about trying to answer questions then.
Huh. Impossible. Part of the checkup often includes x-rays.
Yeah. Get x-rays to see what's going on underneath. Check for hidden problems.
And the hygienist will remind you about good habits. Brush your teeth.
Usually twice a day with toothpaste. They might also apply fluoride, that treatment to strengthen enamel.
Fluoride. And they'll floss your teeth clean between them. At the end, you have to gargle.
Yeah, rinse your mouth out. Either spitting in the sink or using that little vacuum tube thing.
Okay, so that's the routine visit. What about problems? A common one is a toothache.
Just pain in a tooth, often from decay. You might also have sensitivity.
Sensitivity, like to cold water.
Exactly. A sharp pain, maybe because a hole has reached the nerve.
And the most common problem is a cavity, or cavities.
Right. The source mentioned the U.S. pronunciation is often like cavity.
Cavity.
Oh.
Okay. And it's basically a hole from bacteria, from decay.
Yep. And, as the source noted, can be expensive to fix in the U.S.
To fix it, they clean it out and put in a...
A filling, exactly. Material that fills the hole.
If a tooth is really damaged or cracked...
It might need a crown, which is like a cap over the whole tooth to protect it. Not the royal kind.
Huh. Okay. A procedure that sounds pretty intense is a root canal.
It does sound intense. It involves removing the tooth's pulp, including the root, the part below the gums, usually because of infection or severe damage.
Root canal. Got it. A more general term for taking a tooth out.
An extraction, or you can say you need to have a tooth pulled.
And that could be for decay or other reasons, like baby teeth.
Yeah, the source mentioned maybe a child's baby teeth aren't falling out naturally.
And then there are wisdom teeth, those back ones.
Mm-hmm. The source highlighted how often they're removed in the U.S. because our mouths often aren't big enough. It's a very common procedure for young adults there.
Right. For these bigger procedures, you get anesthesia so you don't feel pain.
Yes. Could be local anesthesia, like a shot to numb the area. The source mentioned Novocaine as a common type for cavities.
Okay, local. Or
general anesthesia, where you're completely asleep, often used for wisdom teeth removal.
general anesthesia. Got it. Other problems. That's sticky stuff on teeth.
That's plaque, swiped off by the hygienist, not like an award plaque.
Right. And hardened plaque is tartar.
Tartar. And an infection of the gums is gingivitis.
Gingivitis.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, things to improve teeth appearance. Whitening.
Whitening, yeah. Can be a bit controversial. And braces.
Braces to straighten teeth. Common for teens in the U.S.
Very common. The source called it a rite of passage, even though cleaning them is tough.
Rite of passage. Okay, that was a really thorough run-through of dental English.
Definitely specific, but so practical if you need it.
Absolutely. The source gave such great context, from simple cleaning to complex stuff.
It did.
We have covered such a huge range of vocabulary today, haven't we?
We really have.
Starting with, like, the tiniest details of the morning, flowing through the seasons, thinking about age, navigating politeness, even tackling health topics like the dentist.
And seeing these phrases, these idioms, within those real-life examples, like the source material gave us,
Yeah.
that's the best way to learn them, isn't it?
It has to be. It's not just memorizing a word.
No, it's understanding the context, the feeling, the nuance behind it.
It really makes learning vocabulary feel, well, richer, connecting words to actual moments and meanings.
It definitely moves you towards more genuine fluency.
Yeah. So here's something maybe to take away and think about. We've seen how phrases like get carded or talking about wisdom teeth can show specific cultural habits, right?
U.S. practices mainly.
While other terms like under the weather or feel old seem pretty universal.
Yeah, common human experiences.
So the thought is, how does exploring vocabulary like this, in this kind of depth, not just expand your English word bank, but maybe also offer you a new lens, a new way to understand the everyday world and, the people in it?
You know that feeling, right? That moment when you have something specific you want to say, and there's that perfect English phrase you know exists, but it's just gone. It's stuck somewhere between your brain and your tongue. Like, I heard about this parent trying to handle their son's first lie.
Right.
They knew they had to stop it early, before it got bigger, but that phrase, nip it in the bud, it just wasn't quite there.
Oh, it's incredibly common.
Yeah.
Especially, when you're navigating a new language. Those idioms, those phrasal verbs, they can feel slippery just when you need them.
Exactly.
You are absolutely 100% not alone in feeling that.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. You've brought us this fantastic source material, this video transcript, just packed with real-life English phrases, used how people actually speak.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
So our mission today is to take this stack of info and really dig in, pull out the most important bits, the surprising things, the stuff that will actually help you make this vocabulary stick.
Think of us as your guides. We're going to sort of journey through this material together, looking at everything from, daily routines, how we talk about seasons, age, politeness, even, believe it or not, vocabulary for the dentist. It's all about seeing these words in context, real life.
Okay, let's dive in then. First big section, starting the day, the morning routine.
Makes sense to start there.
The source walks us through a pretty typical morning and all the little actions and the specific words we use.
Exactly, and it kicks off with that sound, maybe a sound many of us dread. The alarm.
Aha, yes.
How do we say that? We say, my alarm goes off. That phrasal verb, to go off. That's what we use for an alarm sounding.
And when it does go off, sometimes the first instinct is just delay. You hit snooze.
Right. That physical act of pressing the button, begging for just a few more minutes.
Which often means when you finally get up, it's not exactly graceful. You roll out of bed.
The source uses that phrase, and it really paints a picture, doesn't it? It's not literal rolling, but it suggests getting up tiredly, maybe a bit reluctantly.
And if you really struggle, you might have overslept.
Yeah, slept past the time you meant to wake up. Notice that sound at the end. Overslept.
Or maybe, if you're lucky every now and then, which just means occasionally.
You get to sleep in.
Ah, yes. The good stuff. To sleep in is the opposite, right? Sleeping later on purpose, a little luxury.
Exactly. Unlike oversleeping. Now, if you're someone whose alarm goes off and you just get up.
Like some kind of superhero.
Huh. Well, you could say, more often than not, I wake up right away. More often than not just means it happens most of the time.
And what do we call those people? The ones who like getting up early.
They're a morning person. Or you could say an early riser.
It brings to mind that phrase the source mentioned. The early bird catches the worm.
Yep, that classic idiom. The idea that starting early gives you an advantage.
So, okay, you're out of bed, maybe slowly, now getting ready. Simple actions, but specific verbs, like glasses or contact.
You take off your glasses or you put in your contacts. Take off, put in.
Then maybe you head for the shower. We often say, hop in the shower.
Right, no actual hopping involved. It just means going quickly, directly.
And basic grooming stuff.
Mm-mm.
Put hair up, maybe, or brush teeth. And the source points out that tricky the in teeth.
Good point. And choosing clothes.
Mm.
You pick out clothes, and then you get dressed. Notice the end of dressed sounds like a T. Dressed.
With details. And something simple that makes a room feel neater. You make the bed.
Just pull up the sheets, arrange the pillows, make it look tidy.
Now, if there's a family involved, the morning gets more complicated.
Definitely, you might wake up the kids and then help them get ready.
And the source clarified help them get ready often means doing tasks for them, right? Like breakfast or packing bags.
Exactly. And you might want to greet them with a cheerful rise and shine.
But some mornings, someone's just grumpy from the start.
We say they wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's classic idiom for being in a bad mood right away.
Breakfast often needs to be fast. You might whip up something.
Means prepare it quickly. Or maybe just throw together breakfast. Similar idea, done in a hurry. Maybe not fancy.
And if time's really tight, you might scarf down breakfast.
Ooh, yeah. That means eat really, really quickly.
Then as people need to leave, you hear things like, gotta get going or don't want to be late.
And the source mentioned those common U.S. pronunciations.
Yeah.
Gotta get going and wanna be late.
Useful tip. People then grab their things and head out the door.
Head out, very common way to say to leave.
And as they go, you might see them off, like saying goodbye as they leave for the day or a trip.
Right. Now, once the house is quiet, maybe you tidy up the kitchen, put things away.
Then perhaps you plan out your day. The source noted adding out just adds a bit more emphasis, like planning thoroughly.
Yeah, compared to just plan your day, it feels a bit more intentional.
And the goal of that quiet time, often to get more work done, focus, be productive.
A very common first task for many. Check my email first thing.
And the source had that great grammar tip. No prepositions needed, just first thing. Not in the first thing or at the first thing.
Simple but easy to get wrong. If you manage others, maybe you check in on your team.
That's a three-part phrasal verb, right?
Yeah.
Check in on. Means monitor progress, see how they are.
Exactly. And of course, you need to get started on your to-do list, your list of tasks.
But crucially, don't forget to take a break.
Essential. Rest for a bit before jumping back in.
Wow, that's a lot of specific language just for the morning.
It really is. It shows how much vocabulary is tied just to everyday actions we barely think about.
It does. And speaking of the everyday world, the source material did a great job linking vocabulary to visual context, especially the seasons.
That's a really smart way to learn. Connect language to sensory stuff. Let's look at spring. A cheerful way to say it's arrived.
Spring has sprung.
Right. And the source pointed out spring is also a verb, meaning to jump. So it's playful the season has jumped into being.
And perfect weather, just not a cloud in the sky. Simple, descriptive.
But spring weather can be tricky. And that leads to a great idiom. Take a rain check.
Ah, yes. And the fascinating thing is, it almost never means actual rain anymore.
Exactly. Like the example. You're sick, have to cancel dinner. You ask your friend, can we take a rain check? It just means reschedule.
Reschedule or delay, yeah. No rain required.
And this section brings us back to that phrase from the very beginning. Nip something in the bud.
Right. The source used that flower bud analogy. If you nib it, pinch it off before it opens.
It doesn't grow. So applying that to a problem like that child's lie.
I mean, stopping it early, right at the start, before it gets worse. You intervene to nip it in the bud. Very useful.
Now, shifting to relationships, the source mentions a fair weather friend.
That's a negative one, isn't it?
Definitely. Like, fair weather is nice. This friend is only around when things are easy and good for you.
And the positive opposite. A friend who sticks with you through thick and thin.
Meaning good times and bad times. Thick and thin, they're loyal no matter what.
Okay, moving into summer, the language heats up.
Literally. The source gave us several ways to talk about intense heat. It's boiling, it's blistering, or blistering hot.
It's a scorcher, or just, it's a hot one. Lots of options.
And if that heat lasts for days, that's a heat wave.
Summer often means vacation time.
Yep, common phrases. Go on vacation or be off on vacation. If you're off, you're away from your usual routine.
And a classic summer trip, you might head to the beach.
Just means go to the beach. And in all that heat, what you want to do is chill out.
Relax, take it easy. Like the source's example, chilling out by the pool. Perfect image.
Okay, on to fall or autumn. The source uses brisk for that cool, chilly weather.
Makes you want to get cozy inside, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We also hear crisp for weather. Not crunchy like an apple, but cool, fresh, maybe dry air, enjoying crisp mornings.
And when the wind really blows, it's blustery.
You can feel it pushing. And that wind causes the rustling of leaves. That sound.
Fall traditions pop up too, like carving pumpkins.
And here's a fun phrasal verb. Squirrel away something.
Ah, like squirrels hiding nuts.
Exactly. It means to hide something, usually small, for later use, like finding that $20 you squirreled away in a coat pocket.
Nice surprise. And another nature idiom. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Meaning a child is similar to their parent. The anecdote about raking leaves and the kids sliding in the pile, just like the parent did. Perfect illustration.
Love that one. Unfortunately, fall can also mean getting sick. The phrase is under the weather.
Just means feeling a bit unwell, not seriously ill usually. Mildly sick.
And finally, winter. The coldest part is the dead of winter.
Definitely not beach weather then. And relationships can get cold too, giving someone the cold shoulder.
Means intentionally ignoring them, being unfriendly, maybe after a fight, like the sister's example.
Right, and being stuck inside during winter can lead to cabin fever.
That restless, anxious, irritable feeling from being cooped up too long. Cold, sickness, pandemics, lots of reasons.
And a verb for something small growing bigger fast. To snowball.
Like a snowball rolling downhill. Usually negative, right?
Usually. Like buying snacks can snowball into a full cart, or small lies can snowball.
And that classic idiom for something bigger than it seems. The tip of the iceberg.
The source used the English teacher example. The teaching you see is just the tip of the iceberg compared to all the other work like video making, running a business.
The hidden part is much larger. That's brilliant, using seasons to link vocabulary to experiences and ideas.
It really is. Not just weather, but relationships, habits, problems. Shows how language weaves into everything.
Speaking of experiences, let's talk about something universal. Age.
Ah, yes. The source kicked us off with that relatable story, right? Getting asked for ID by a young cashier.
Yes, when buying something age-restricted.
And that led to a really useful grammar point, using age as an adjective before a noun.
Like a 16-year-old cashier or a 4-year-old son, you use hyphens and year is singular. Year-old.
Got it. But if you're just stating the age, no noun right after.
Like, he's 50 years old or I am 36 years old. Then no hyphens and year is plural. Years old.
That's a great distinction. So useful. Back to the story, being asked for ID is called get carded.
And in the US, with the drinking age at 21, you might get carded even if you're like 40 or 50.
And apparently some older people find it quite flattering.
I can imagine. Now, a common feeling as time goes on is to feel old.
The source captured that perfectly. It's that moment you notice a gap between your actual age and how you feel, or maybe see things that mark time passing.
Like seeing pro athletes younger than you or cousins graduating high school makes you suddenly feel old.
But the source gives us that comforting idea too. Age is just a number.
It's more about mindset.
Exactly. You can be vibrant and engaged, whatever the number, and the verb is simply to age. Everyone ages.
It's just part of life. To counter feeling old, you can try to be young at heart.
Meaning keeping your curiosity, your energy, your sense of play. The source mentioned being around kids helps keep you young at heart. Encourages silliness.
And for anyone thinking about starting something new later in life,
The phrase is, it's never too late. Like learning English in retirement or planting that tree. It's never too late for something meaningful.
the source also tackled that slightly negative idiom. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right, the idea that older people struggle to learn. But the source really pushed back, saying you can learn, maybe differently, and keeping active is key.
Which leads to keeping your mind young.
Engaging in challenging activities, puzzles, art, learning, keeping stimulated.
And the source wrapped up with that great George Bernard Shaw quote.
We don't stop playing because we grow older. We grow older because we stop playing. Powerful thought.
Really is. Shows how language about age covers feelings, abilities, attitudes. Okay, let's shift gears. From personal stuff to social interaction, especially formal situations, like work.
This section is super practical. Clear examples of what not to say and the polite alternatives, all about context.
So, reading someone at work, avoid the super casual, what's up?
Right. Much better. How are you doing? Or simply, how are you? More standard, more formal.
If someone comes to you, definitely don't use what do you want or what do you need. Sounds blunt.
Very blunt. Instead, how can I help you? Assumes they need help and you're offering it. Polite.
Asking for quiet. Avoid hush, shush, or especially shut up. Just rude.
Absolutely rude. Use polite requests. Please be quiet, or maybe softer. Can you lower your voice?
Okay, this one's sensitive but key. In a formal setting, you can't announce, I have to pee.
No, definitely not the place. The source gives the standard euphemisms. I have to use the restroom, or I have to use the bathroom. Restroom often feels a bit more formal in the U.S.
If you make a big mistake at work, like that wrong email example, sorry about that isn't really enough.
No, that's too casual for something serious. You need a stronger apology. I apologize for that. And maybe follow up. I should have double-checked the address. Shows responsibility.
When explaining something, don't ask, does that make sense? People might just nod.
Exactly. Ask something that needs a real answer to check understanding. What are your thoughts? Or, I'd like your opinion on this. Invites a proper response.
If you didn't hear someone, never use Hano, or what?
Sounds very abrupt, yeah. Polite options. Can you repeat that, or what do you mean by that? Ask for clarification nicely.
Getting attention across a room, don't shout, hey!
Nope. The polite way is,
Excuse me.
and reacting positively to news. Skip the informal suite in a professional setting.
Yeah, much better. That's great. That sounds good. Or
Fantastic.
finally, addressing people. Avoid informal terms like dude, man, chick.
Absolutely crucial. Use the person's name, or title and last name if it's very formal, like President Smith. But know your workplace, maybe John is fine. Err on the side of respect.
That list is so helpful. It really highlights a pattern, doesn't it? Polite language is often
Right.
longer, more complete sentences.
Exactly. Avoids those short, abrupt phrases. It might seem like more effort, but it really changes how you're perceived, especially formally or with new people.
Okay, let's wrap up our deep dive today with some really practical English for a place many people find a bit stressful, the dentist.
Huh. Not usually a favorite outing, no.
Yeah.
But knowing the vocabulary can definitely help if you need to talk about dental stuff in English.
First step, scheduling. You make an appointment for a routine checkup.
Also called a routine appointment, usually once or twice a year. And the main event is often to get your teeth cleaned.
Then by the hygienist with special tools. You'll hear about parts of the mouth too, teeth obviously, and the red skin around them.
Your gums, always plural, gums. And they check your enamel, that hard outer coating on your teeth.
The person cleaning is the dental hygienist, or just hygienist. The dentist usually looks at x-rays, handles bigger problems.
And the whole idea of keeping your mouth clean, that's oral hygiene. Oral meaning mouth-related.
During the checkup, you'll be told to sit back in the chair, that special chair, and definitely open wide.
And the source joked about trying to answer questions like that.
Yeah, impossible. Part of the checkup is often getting x-rays to see hidden issues.
The hygienist will remind you about good habits. Brush your teeth twice a day with toothpaste. They might apply fluoride to strengthen enamel.
And they'll floss your teeth, cleaning between them. At the end, you gargle, rinse your mouth out.
Right, either spitting or using that little vacuum thing. So that's the routine stuff. What about problems?
A common one, a toothache, pain in a tooth, often from decay.
Or you might have sensitivity, that sharp pain, maybe from cold water, if a hole reaches the nerve.
And the most common issue, a cavity or cavities. The source mentioned the U.S. pronunciation, like cavity.
Well, from bacteria. And yes, the source noted they can be expensive to fix in the U.S.
To fix it, they clean it out and put in a filling, material to fill the hole.
If a tooth is badly damaged or cracked, it might need a crown, a cap over the tooth.
Then there's the one that sounds scary, a root canal.
Yeah, it involves removing the tooth's pulp, including the root below the gums, usually due to infection or damage.
A more general term for taking a tooth out is an extraction or having a tooth pulled.
Could be for decay, like needing a root canal, or other reasons like baby teeth not falling out.
And then there are wisdom teeth, those back ones.
The source highlighted how often they're removed in the U.S. because our mouths often aren't big enough. A common procedure for young adults there.
For these bigger procedures, you need anesthesia, pain prevention.
Could be local anesthesia, a shot to numb the area like Novocaine for cavities, the source mentioned, or general anesthesia where you're asleep, often for wisdom teeth.
Other problems, plaque. That sticky film scraped off by the hygienist.
Not like an award plaque. And hardened plaque is tartar. An infection of the gums is gingivitis.
Finally, cosmetic things. Whitening, which can be controversial, and braces to straighten teeth.
The source called braces a rite of passage for U.S. teens, even though they're hard to clean.
That was a really thorough run-through of dental English.
Yeah.
Very specific, but so practical.
Absolutely. The source gave great detail, from simple cleaning to complex stuff.
We've covered such a huge range of vocabulary today, haven't we? From tiny morning details through seasons, age, politeness, even health.
And seeing these phrases in real examples, like the source provided, that's really the key, isn't it? It's not just memorizing. It's understanding context, feeling, nuance.
It makes learning vocabulary feel much richer, connecting words to actual moments and meanings.
Thankfully, it moves you towards, genuine understanding and use.
So here's something to maybe mull over. We've seen how phrases like get carded or talking about wisdom teeth can show cultural habits, right? While things like under the weather or feel old seem universal.
Hmm.
How does exploring vocabulary like this in context not just teach you words, but maybe give you a new lens, a way to understand the everyday world and the people in it just a little bit differently?